It is a dark time for the mortal realms. Gods and armies clash across all 8 realms. While Sigmar sends his champions to face the dark hordes of the Chaos Gods, another threat rises. Nagash, the supreme necromancer, has finally made his long-planned move against the other powers. He has unleashed the Shyish Nadir at the heart of his realm. The amethyst glow from this vortex of doom flows through the underworld. Legion after legion of undead sweep out into the realms, having the living feel the cold touch of death. Nagash's forces aren't the only ones to benefit from the new font of dark magic. Undead tyrants and creatures of the shadow flex their newfound strength, seeking new victims and more power. The foundation of the city that would be called Ulfenkarn were set by 3 noble dynasties of Azerite descent, the House Alten, Voshium, and Gaunt. The location of this fortress city was near the heart of Shyish, at times where mortals could walk the streets and the tides of the dark magic were calm. It was a time where living and dead ruled over the masses with wisdom and strength. Soon a fortress grew into a metropolis spanning across the gulf of Cor Mortifus and became known as Mournhold. During the Age of Chaos, Mournhold found itself sieged by Slann the Revener, a demon prince of Khorne. The siege lasted seasons, decimating the city walls, draining supplies and hope as the days passed. It was at the last moment of hope that a fleet of ships were seen coming into the bay of Cor Mortifus, led by a ship whose sails bellowed with the image of a snarling wolf's head. Initially, both the forces of the city and the sieging Chaos hordes thought these new ships were more reinforcements to the Demon Prince. They were quickly disillusioned of this idea when those new ships opened fire on the sieging ships, creating a path to the cliffs of Sarsgarond. From the ships leapt the Kasagori, a force of ogres from the underworld of Kasarg. Leading these 10-foot-tall warriors was the most feared warlord of the Nihilat Reach, Radukar the Wolf, and his warriors fought their way to the gates of Mournhold, suffering heavy losses until Radukar challenged and defeated Slann the Revener. Ripping his sword from the Demon Prince's heart, Radukar enjoyed the blood fountaining from the wound as he watched the Chaos forces flee. The citizens of Mournhold now found themselves trading one threat for another. Radukar was known far and wide for his cruelty, yet Radukar approached the city gates and proclaimed he was not the city's enemy, but their salvation. He would keep them safe from any threat. In return, he only asked to have a seat on the Council of Princes, and to have enough blood to sate his vampiric thirst. Knowing they were making a deal with the devil, the city leaders opened the doors for Radukar to enter, sealing their fate. Uneasy Alliance. The transformation of this great city into the nightmare found today was not a sudden one. Radukar claimed the Ebon Citadel for himself and his forces. He slowly grew his power base of lackeys, fiends, and creatures of the dark, calling itself the Thirsting Court. But it was no stroke of luck or chance that had led Radukar to the city of Mournhold. Long ago, an ancestor of Radukar, who had the gift of future sight, had claimed that Radukar would find his destiny there. Though he could not raid and pillage as he had done in the past, and saw the city as a hollow and dismal place, he knew that this would be the place of great power soon enough. For centuries, Radukar and the great princes worked together, and the people of the city continued their lives, living and dying without being affected by the monstrous vampire biding his time in his castle. Except, of course, those chosen to keep the vampire's hunger at bay. Generations passed, and even the events after the opening of Sigmar's Tempest didn't affect the coastal city. That was, until Nagash made his move and broke the realms. In one great act of power, Nagash inverted the balance of magic in Shyish. Where Mournhold was at the center of the realm where the flows of magic were at their calmest, it was now at the doorstep of the strongest swirling flow of death magic. Entire parts of the city were turned to dust in the transformation, some falling into the dark abyss of the Nadir, others turned to ash. Radukar was filled to the brim with new power, and would no longer hide in the shadows. surviving off the paltry offerings of the city. As night fell on Mournhold, Radakar and the thirsting court descended onto the distraught city, slaying all that could be seen as a threat to Radakar, leaving body-filled streets in their wake. Some of the nobility was saved and given the blood kiss, turning them into vampires. As dawn broke, only the meek and subservient to Radakar remained. He renamed the city Ulfenkarn, the Wolf's Feast. The vampire rulers began a feast unseen and heard in the docile city, indulging in every urge or want they could fathom. Life was worthless and hope distant, unremembered memory. The denizens of the city were left to work tirelessly through the day, between the wailing fleets and the blood farms. At night, the citizens would descend upon erected fonts, where flesh was pierced and blood allowed to flow down into the aqueducts of the city. This tithe of blood directed to the Ebon Citadel for the vampire masters to enjoy. All crimes were punished by either weeks-long torture to drain every last drop of blood, or to have the offender thrown to the entrance of Radakar's lair, where the screams of the condemned would echo throughout the citadel. The mortals were left to cower in the outer boroughs of the city, the only place where the Nadir wouldn't kill them outright. Every night they cower inside, never going out, fearing to be victims of the rats, bats, or worse that prowl through the night. Radakar's necromancers summon suffocating grave tides, waves of death and grave soil that sweep through the city, protecting Radakar's forbidden quarters. Gardens of roses that can suck the very life force out of their victims, and pits of undead that drag the living down to their depths are just a few of the horrors that people face when they try to move around and escape the horror. The depravity of living within the unholy walls of Ulfenkarn has people turning on each other in hope of being spared, and people gambling on how far people trying to escape get before they meet their end. Radakar is rarely seen, as rumors of depravity surround the unholy rites he performs to keep his followers loyal and increase his power. Yet, hope remains, as outsiders risk their lives and souls to enter the city and save it.